We're on the Lisle Township. Trustee emails are on there, but
Okay.
Diane's isn't, but I have hers, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you did
And I-
clerk at Lisle Township,
Yeah.
whatever.
Oh,
Yeah, I-
Cagliano, when is it?
Diane.
Yes.
Here's my
Yeah.
clerk.
It is, no, you're right about
He
that.
just wanted to know.
But the trustee emails are on the website. but I didn't see yours.
That's
a good thing.
Yeah. In a
One
positive.
thing for the check, well, let me check
Right.
spam, let me check spam.
Yeah, it starts with a K, not cold.
Oh, technically, right?
Yes, good word.
Technically.
John, I did get it in. I did get it in spam, that's where, yeah.
All right, I call the, I'll call the finance committee meeting to order. All right, let's do another pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States, for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, you wanna,
Sure. Clerk Polowitz,
Here,
Supervisor Hewitt. Here. Trustee Page is here. Trustee McGovern.
Here.
Trustee Robinson.
here,
Trustee Geist.
Here.
And Highway Commissioner Young. Here. Thank you. And then in the room, we have Yoshi Yamanaka, John DeCanto, Ruby Smith, and John Light. Thank you.
anyone online?
No.
Any public comment?
No.
Okay, and no one has a public comment in the room? Okay, cool. Thanks. Part of the reason I want to have this meeting, so, we've got 6 months left of our term and 4 months left of the current year budget, right? One of my commitments to you all when you joined was how do we leave this in a better place than when we got here? So what are our opportunities to make it better? And we've got some things that we talked about, and we'll go through those. That's really what item, for the most part, what item 8 is about. Capital plans, number 9. And we've got some things underway already. But the other part we have to do is we have to set our levy. And also for the mental health board. And so for the purposes of the discussion, you know, we're sort of new to this process. We do have, and we did have an interim levy document, which was shared. And I think one of the things I wanted to make sure that we all had a good understanding is what our obligations as trustees were relative to the setting of the levy. So I did get some guidance from our legal representation. So just so we all know, what is the authority of the township board over setting and approving the annual levy for 708 mental health board? And the guidance that was given is township board has ultimate authority over the community health board's final levy amount. However, the community health board has sole authority and discretion over its own budget. And the township board is obligated to appropriate and provide sufficient funds for that budget. So what was recommended is that we have a meeting, that we talk about what's your budget, right? Make sure that we're all sort of understanding, because we're going to question, we are going to sign off on your levy, right? And we just want to make sure that we're comfortable and you can explain to us what your budget is. We're not going to do line item adjustments. We really just want to make sure that we're working well together, is really what this is about. So that's sort of where we asked you to come and talk about your budget and your levy. The first proposal was significantly more than what you're currently asking for. So I think that's what we reacted to initially is, and now it's a 5% increase that you're asking for. So really that's why I asked you folks to come and talk about your budget. But I also want us, the trustees, to be mindful of, okay, what are the investments that we have to make and we can make to improve this township? And we've started to do some on the HR side. We've talked about how can we make the employee manual better, how can we have reviews so the employees feel in better position, so we hand it over in a good state. So I did ask, and I think it was in the material that was shared in the meeting, what is our current spend relative to budget? And I think that's 708 board. It was in the packet. I saw it was put in the packet. I don't know if there's a copy distributed. I also want us to be thinking ahead to January when we have to do, we have to reforecast a couple of budget lines for the current fiscal year, but also set budget for next year. There was a document. I mean, I will point out that we are over in our current expenditure for administration, which we knew was going to be the case. That's about the only budget line from an expense point of view. I guess also up water and sewer utility is a little high. I don't know, we may have to adjust that just to make sure that we're under the 7% or whatever we can go over. But that's what this was for. I wanted to make sure, you know, we had guidance from our accounting firm, a lot of economic, and they looked at our financials, they looked at our projections, and their recommendation that we go on a flat levy. So I didn't know if that was something we want to discuss based on what we spent and what we anticipate spending in the next year, or if we're all comfortable with that. And again, we don't make decisions here, we make recommendations. The board will make that final decision next week. So that's really what I wanted to bring in front of us as we have that discussion around what our current spend is, what our projected spend is. And then also as we start thinking about budgets for next year.
We would really need to look for an increase because we have funds.
Right, I think that's really what. We could guidance in that.
Yeah, and I really appreciate all the work that you're doing with the mental health board. I think it's difficult when you implement a new offering, right? Knowing how far those monies are gonna stretch and knowing all the areas that you want to make that investment. And I really think that you kind of just almost need to get really, because you haven't even had a full year to do that exploration, because you were forming the group and there's changes and all of these things, right? So I don't know, I guess I'm curious as to what's driving that percentage increase versus just kind of like, where do we really want to invest? What is our spend really going to look like for a full year? And then possibly looking at an increase the following year, like what's driving?
Sorry, I just want to make sure, staying to the agenda. I hold her question. but
Okay,
it-
sorry.
Yeah,
I
no,
thought we were talking.
yeah, no, I'm talking, so our township budget, any concerns or any discussion around where we are relative to that? And I think that you did close out, you said, I think a flat levy is the right answer based on where we are. So thank you for that. Okay, now, I appreciate you
right.
guys. No, you're ahead of the
All
game.
right.
You're ahead of the game. Thank you for that question.
He's so excited.
I know, well, we know you guys are doing good work. We'd like to know, have more interaction, frankly, and just more opportunities to work with. So
But I think a flat budget's exciting.
for us,
Yes.
I think so too. For the township?
Yes.
I mean,
I
people,
feel like it shows that it's been thought about and we are sticking to our, our lanes.
Yeah.
So I love that. And I would hope that would keep up. There's inflation, but fingers crossed it gets better.
well, and I did challenge a little bit because we, at the last meeting, insurance is going up, employee benefits are going up, other
Garbage is going up.
a lot of expenses are going up, but to trustee Guy's point, we have a reserve that we can draw on. And in the interest of our residents, flat levy. Okay, thank you.
Oh, I can respond to trustee Guys. So initially, I had proposed a 50% increase in our levy. And that was based on the fact that it's a little bit complicated, but we started off with a grant application portal, which frankly was very user unfriendly. And we had a lot of agencies drop out halfway through. So because of all of those dropouts, we still had funds left over and we opened up a supplemental application period. And during that supplemental application period, we received 25 new applications. And of those 25, only two new agencies completed the application. And I put that to the user unfriendliness of our grant portal. Now I am presently training together with our grant administrator on a new grant portal. It's called Foundant. Foundant is used by DuPage Foundation. It's used by Milton Township. It's now being used by Naperville 708 Board. And they're the Cadillac or the Lexus of, you know, grant applications and so forth. And what Milton Township would like to see, I'm sorry, Milton 708 Board would like to see is for all 708 boards in DuPage to use the same grant portal, namely Found It. And Found It is much user friendlier. And I believe that instead of having 90% dropout for the supplemental, I think the dropout rate would be 50% or less. And therefore, there's a great need out there. There are agencies seeking funds, and we cannot address all of their needs.
Right, there's lots of, we all have, right? Even in our own personal budgeting, there's things we want, right? And we want it all, right? But maybe you have to just, because it's new, really assessing what agencies are most aligned with what you're trying to do. Where is their duplication? Are there agencies that are seeking funding from Lisle and Milton and Naperville? You see what I'm saying? Like, really, I mean, is there checks and balances of that? I mean, I don't know. So, and then are we then possibly leaving some possible recipients out of the loop because we've distributed? I don't know. I guess there's so many questions.
So if I can
Sorry.
address part of that question, certainly if you've got agencies such as NAMI or Easter Seals or YWCA, they provide services throughout the state. And actually, NAMI provides it throughout the United States.
Right.
And of course, our mandate is that when we grant money to an agency, that agency is duty bound to serve only Lisle Township residents. So just the mere fact that NAMI might receive funds from Hanover and from Milton and possibly from Naperville, those funds are serving those townships and not Lisle Township.
What's the checks and balances of that? How do you know?
They have a reporting, they do quarterly to us. So a lot of these agencies, they're familiar with having to report to their funders. So they verify the residency through the GIS data of all the
It's good to know.
recipients and stuff like that. So that was my big thing. I want to make sure that any money coming from the township goes to residents of the township. So yeah, we're gonna be on top of them. So
And if they don't use all the funding because they don't have, it comes back.
It comes back to us, contractually, any funds unspent in excess of $100 comes back to the 708 Board. It's $99 or less.
You get it. I get it.
Yes.
Guys, sorry, John.
just to follow up on your point. I was, in regards to the levy increase, I was kind of in the same boat as you where this being the first year of the subcommittee board, I wanted us to prove the concept within our board. So to kind of go back against Yosh with his 50% request increase, I was open to leaving it flat at the same amount as prior, just because it's our first year and we want to prove ourselves that we can expend money. But then Yosh made a good point that we actually had to reduce the amount of funding that we granted to some of these agencies. They requested X amount, we had to give them a little bit less, just because we're only working with a certain amount of money.
Well, why is that terrible?
You always shoot for the stars.
Yes, the agencies do shoot for the stars.
It's a budget,
But
right? So if we're.
But if I could just finish.
Yeah.
So they come to us with a package, they say we can serve 100 people. And we say, unfortunately, we would love to serve 100 residents of Lisle Township, but we only have the money for 70. And you know, that's a give and take, but I think my goal of coming up from my 0% change is to get the demand from the agencies and our funding up in more of a balance, so that we're not having to reject so many agencies and then conserve more people. Because the demand is there, with the DuPage County. You know, they have the research and reports that show that there is demand for these services.
100, not challenging that at all. And I want to make sure we're serving as many people as we can serve, but we weren't serving anyone a year ago. So we're making,
Do you know that?
we didn't have this.
No, but the agencies that we're giving the money to, they could have been serving these same people.
Yes, and in some other reports, they do say, you know, last year we served 40 people in Lisle Township. This year with these funds and this program that we want to do, we can serve 100.
So look, I mean, they're gonna demonstrate to you that they served 100 people.
So when they
served
That's
45, what happened?
That's their obligation.
When they hit 40, if they only had money for funds for 40 and they hit the number 40, then numbers 41 and up just don't get any support.
Well, if they don't have the funding, then
I don't know, but that doesn't make sense to me, that like you're an agency. Before this funding existed, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. But before this funding, this is a win, this is new, right? This is really exciting that they're able to expand. But they're expanding in a way that they've never been able to expand before, so I just feel like it should be incremental. That's why, and I feel like
Yeah.
it hasn't even been a full year of funding. Because you didn't really have a full year of activity, because you were doing your bylaws and you were forming your board and people were coming and going, right? So you had challenges with the portal that you know, right? So I don't know, I guess to me, you know, I wouldn't see where I would feel right even asking for more until I had established, hey, these are the agencies, this is where we're falling short. Now, this is where you show that data to then say, well, maybe it is more than 5%, maybe it's 8% more that you need. But you don't know that because we don't have data showing where we fell short to qualify that extra ask. No?
As far as the data, I mean, it's. I don't know how you pull like that data. If we disperse 900,000. And there are unfunded agencies, I mean, just how much more need, you know, then we might receive applications say, well, we've got other agencies that take higher priority, and so we're not gonna fund you.
Mhm.
But, you know, there's all this built up need. And to say, well, how much need did you reject? It's.
But how does it end? Because every year it could be 5% more, 5%. I mean, the reason why we create budgets is to plan, right? And I feel like you should be able to get the data that you need to qualify spending more. Like, okay, we were not able to fund this agency and this agency, and this is why it's important, and this is the loss that comes with it. And so this is why we need this X amount of dollars. Like, I just don't feel like there's it's just like, oh, let's do 5%, let's do 50%. I mean, the 50% number almost gave me a heart attack, I'll be honest with you. But like, I shouldn't talk about that, but you know, I just think to myself, what's qualifying the ask, right? Just because, oh, we want to do more. I want to do more too. I want to paint my house. I want new windows. I want to have new sod. I can't do it. I have to do it in increments, right? So I have to plan. So I guess, go ahead, Jim.
So I would just say the 50% increase, that would be the equivalent of $500,000 house. Your annual tax bill going towards the board, this one would be $40 to $60. So it's not a huge, you know, burdensome amount. But
Yeah, much of that's.
Maybe
I understand what
not.
you're
I
saying.
understand where you're coming from with.
Yeah.
Assessing the need, but
I would-
I'm not a
I would
pattern. I
say-
guess I'm just
I would
not a
just say
pattern,
that
yeah.
with the DuPage County data that's available, there's obvious, you can look, you know, X amount of people are suffering from alcohol abuse, X amount of people are, you
Yeah.
know, this, that, and the other. And our goal is to do the initial funding, see how the agencies respond.
Yeah.
What kind of feedback they can give us.
Mhm.
If they can prove their worth, great, maybe they come back and say, you know, we fell short last time, we're not gonna ask for as much. We could have agencies that say, hey, we knocked it out of the ballpark, do you mind if we come back and ask for a little bit more? So there's gonna be a give and take. You
Sure.
can only go by what the data that's available on the DuPage County website. And, just.
But how do you know 5% enough?
Well, I feel that it's not based on our supplemental application. and
Is
that-
10% enough?
Probably not.
25%?
That's something I could live
But we
with.
don't know why. We don't understand why. That's
I
my
have a
point,
question about
right?
cost.
Like,
What's the database, the desired database that you want? What is the cost on that?
That is 14,900 for a 2-year.
Okay,
2 years?
that's more expensive than anything we have in this office.
2 years.
Wow.
Let's not get caught up in the.
Yeah, we don't want to do budget line.
Okay,
yeah, sorry,
Um,
go
Well,
ahead.
I
This
would-
is our.
But what
budget,
drives
trying
this?
to,
14,000.
we need an infrastructure to get this money out.
Sure, okay,
And
sorry.
For instance, last year when we were in our first year operating, we didn't have any levy funds, we borrowed from the township. We borrowed about 31,000 from the township. This year, based on the report that Yosh put together, our admin costs are, less than 10%. And that is, none of the board members take salary, we're all volunteers. So a 10% admin cost, yes, I'd like to see it low, but compared to actual nonprofits out there, their administration costs compared to what they actually disperse to the community,
Mhm.
we have such an advantage with such a low admin cost.
Sorry, I just want to ask you a question. So you dispersed 353,000 approximately through November 17th.
Correct. And if you would like, I can kind of walk everybody through.
Are you gonna get it all out by the end of the calendar? You get it all out by the end of the fiscal year? That's sort of wondering.
That's our goal. Okay. And so we do quarterly disbursements for each part.
And I see you've done 150,000, 160,000 since August 26th. Right? I'm just looking at your disbursement, 188, 353.
Yeah, so yeah, we're getting the money. And then the agencies have to report back to us quarterly. Because the applications, they say, okay, we're gonna serve this amount of people, we're gonna do this program, we're gonna host this program, we hope to have 25 attendees. And every quarter they come back to us and they say, yes, we hosted this program, we were aiming for 25 attendees, unfortunately, we had 20 attendees. So we have, as the board, we have the right to claw back money if these agencies do not fulfill their objectives.
And it could be 3%, it could be 5%. I mean, you don't know what's gonna come back, right? I guess my biggest concern, I want to make sure we're taking care of people. That's the whole point, reason why I was a champion for this. But I also want to be mindful to our taxpayers that we say, well, it's only $40 this year. It's only $40 next year. It's only $40 this, you know what I'm saying? When we created the mental health board, we asked for that money. We didn't ask them for more. Or give them, set the expectation that, okay, after the first year, we're gonna ask you for more, and then we're probably gonna ask you, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like. I don't know.
That's how the levies work, right? I mean,
I thought the levy, what was approved was a lot.
I mean, that's how government, that's how government funds, right?
No, it wasn't more than a million.
Isn't this?
It was based on a percent.
Oh.
Right, which was a lot more.
In the
Oh,
referendum.
yes, the
Yeah.
law provides for, I think, 4.15%.
Something like that. I can remember the percent.
And we are
Point
Oh,
zero
0.04. We
Yeah, so
are
what the voters approved was much more money than that.
So we're about a quarter. Or
I think what
Less
people
than
who were
4%.
selling it said the first thing. What the voters approved.
I think we took a humble approach as our starting budget.
Mm.
To prove ourselves as a board.
Got it.
And that proving ourselves as a board is in process.
Okay.
And it's an ongoing process.
Just ask you a question about your board. Are people getting to the point where they say, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to do all these levels of reporting, and that's why they stop? Or it's because they just can't work their way through?
they cannot work their way through the application. I mean, it's very cumbersome. It asks, are you a 501c3? That's not one of our requirements. Okay, then give us your
Right.
determination letter. Who are you? the members of your board, what are their term limits, contact information, give us your financials. And this is our original portal, which some 708 boards still use. Madison County uses it, Will County uses it. In fact, that's why I decided to go with these people, because two of my friends at these other 708 boards said, oh yeah, we use them, and we've been using them for years. I said, fine, but after we used them, several months ago, we had a survey, we sent out a survey to all of the grant applicants. Saying, dear grantee, you know, you work through our grant portal, what is your opinion? And almost universally, they said, that was the worst experience in my life.
Yeah.
It was terrible.
And a lot of that, to piggyback on what you said it, a lot of it was surveying other boards as to what they use, and kind of doing a trade-off between what is currently being used and trying to reduce costs or, you know, save on cost. As our board grows, we found this founded company that seems to be more user-friendly. So we're hoping that in the future, because we're spending a little bit more money for the portal, it's gonna be more user-friendly, we're gonna attract more agencies, and then we can disperse.
A little off topic, but I'm just gonna throw this out there for something to keep in mind. Agencies or organizations that already have a 501(c) status, maybe they don't need to go through as rigorous of an
That was-
explorative process
Yeah.
as ones that don't.
That
Because
was-
they're already doing that to establish themselves, and they're already having to meet so many other guidelines to maintain that. Just throwing that out.
Yes, I think some of the feedback on our existing portal is that the application process was cumbersome in that.
Any more questions around?
I do, I just have a question.
Sorry,
So, you just said you don't need to be a 501(c)(3). So do you give money for profit organizations as well? You do,
Yes, we do.
okay. And then the other thing is, so you're looking to get 50,000 more, in the levy, right? Right, so, and you spoke about the fondant grant portal. Yeah, could I just ask, and I know this is line out, and I'm just trying to gauge it. How much is that compared to, I don't know where the portal is of what your,
So our first portal, we spent $9,995.
okay,
That was before enhancements. I think we paid another $800 on top of that.
okay,
So all told, it came out to close to 11,000 for 1 year.
okay. And then this one is gonna be the
It's
14,000, right?
14,900.
14,900. Okay, because this is last year's budget, right? So the extra money, so that's like $4,000. So the rest of the $50,000 would be going straight to grants? Is that what?
That's our hope.
Okay, so none of the other, the admin is pretty much staying the same except for the portal?
I will say that recently, I guess in August, we hired a grant administrator
Okay, yeah,
and as a independent contractor and 3,200 per month.
so 3,200, that's math people, right?
36,000.
37 almost. Okay, so
So
that's pretty much all of it, then 37,000 plus another 4, that's 41,000. So then that kind of leaves 9,000. Am I
would say
wrong?
We
Am I-
had so the initial expenditure for the grant portal was in the previous year when we borrowed funds.
It's
from-
not
from
on
the town.
here.
It's not on this. This is our current from April 1st of 2024 through March 31, 2025. The initial expenditure for that first grant was last year's.
Okay, so then that makes it over 50,000. Cause that's 37,000 plus basically $15,000, right? The new portal.
Okay.
So that's
53,000.
53,000.
For what? I'm sorry.
I'm just trying, this was last year's budget, right? This is 1 million. I see total revenue 1 million.
Well, this is the current year's. budget.
Current year, and you're looking to levy and for the budget the following, right?
Right, and then I will say, for this
Or-
budget year, we had budgeted 50,000 for a direct services consortium with other 708 boards.
Right,
That's likely not going to occur this year.
okay,
So there's another 50,000.
there's a 50 coming back up
We shifted that 50,000 for the consortium
Kind of
into grant.
into that. So got it, okay, and we don't want to go line by line, and I know that, and I don't mean that, but just kind of where the rationale is to have the $50,000, where's it going? That was it.
So do you expect that the consortium will get to next year?
I think, possibly there's a couple new 708 boards in DuPage County. So I believe, as we, the Lisle Township 708 board really hit the ground running. And thanks to Yosh, we established ourselves very quickly. Whereas other boards are really kind of slow. But I think with the new 708 boards that have been established over the next couple of years, hopefully we can get kind of a joint effort going. And what that may look like can be determined by a committee between the 708 boards or however.
And that's all DuPage County based?
DuPage County
Consortium would be
708 boards,
DuPage County.
Yes, DuPage 708 boards. This year was 5 708 boards, and we are now adding 3 more 708 boards. I'm going from 5 to 8. And I will say that Naperville, their 708 board came online at the same time as our 708 board, but they are just now rolling out their applications for grants.
Okay.
So
And how does the county's endeavors, they expanded and their whole process here, how does that play into our individual 708s, or does it? Are you all communicating?
It more so, I can speak to this in a Yosh, with. The county provides a lot of data. And a lot of the agencies that request funds from our board also work in DuPage County. So just for efficiency and I think going from a county level would be beneficial from an efficiency standpoint as serving the whole county. Because we're really a top-down kind of government, starting at the county level and feeding down to the townships. That kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I'm wondering if you're collaborating all together to distribute services.
For instance, maybe, okay, so Naperville Central. Part of Naperville Central students live in Lisle Township.
Yeah,
Some of them live in Naperville Township. So if an agency comes and says, hey, we have this great connection to Naperville Central administrators, we want to put this program in there. But, we can only serve the Lisle Township students. Well, if we connect with Naperville Township, then it wouldn't be so burdensome for them to just tackle the program that they want to do. They can get the Naperville Township students under that program and the Lisle Township programs. So because of some of the borders with the township and some of the overlapping government districts, especially schools, I think working together with other townships would be a good idea.
before I take Supervisor Hewitt's question and responding to yours regarding collaboration between the county and the various 708 boards in DuPage. We actually had a meeting at the county offices. There were 4 other Napervilles, that Naperville 708, Milton Township 708, we were there, and one, I forget where they were, but Bloomingdale,
okay.
Bloomington. And so there was a roundtable discussion of what we're doing, strengths, weaknesses, and so forth. There was a collaborative effort this morning, and we've agreed to meet again quarterly, and so we would trade information. So we're not working in a silo. We are working collaboratively. In fact, found it. We we decided to go with Foundant because Lisle Township said, this is what we're using, we want all the 708 boards in DuPage County to use Foundant. So it simplifies the whole application process. So if you're nominee DuPage and you said, well, we want to serve Lisle, we want to serve Naperville, we want to serve Milton, they can create one application and it would.
Got it.
And this morning, there was people from actually all the townships. I mean, there was one person sometimes there from like the supervisor or the from the 708 board, and then there was a number of people from the county that were participating, like from the county health department and what have you not. So there was a whole lot of conversations about how you all could work together with the township, with the 708 boards and with the county. I mean, obviously, the county is making the crisis center be an entity that will serve all of the townships. And so it's gonna take time for all of the developing boards to work together. So I think that was rather impressive, and we had met last year as well. Yeah, it was last year. And spoken at length. It was a lunch and it was like 2 hours long or something along those lines, so.
What was the meeting this morning?
What was that?
What was the meeting this morning?
Something I think.
708 board.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. I appreciate you both coming.
That's very helpful, thank you.
Yeah.
Very helpful.
Yeah.
Sorry for all the questions.
No, it's not at all. Yeah. Any no more questions around mental health board? Right. I put in a review of draft township levy document. Don't expect us to go through it line by line. We talked about it. We gave, a draft approval, original approval at the November meeting. We have to make final approval in next week at our board meeting. I think we've heard, I just want to confirm, flat tax in levy or no levy increase, township level, 5% as requested from mental health board. Again, this is a recommending, you don't have to vote on it. Just, I want to make sure we're all comfortable because we're going to have to vote on it next week. Okay, cool. Right. Point 8, it was discussed briefly in the last meeting. I know Yosh, the Esther and Mr. Yamanaka, thank you, had asked for consideration of sickage, providing audit, tacking on the 708 board as part of the township audit. I think there was you had a call with sickage supervisor Hewitt.
So there's 2 questions to be answered. One is, does the 708 board need to have an audit for that time period that we're having our audit?
Okay.
Meaning that they didn't have any money at that time, and we were essentially loaning them, and that's actually being a part of our current audit. So they didn't get any money until July of 2024.
So the first one is end of May,
Okay,
then dribble May, June, July, August, and then November 1st.
so the year ended on March 31st. So at that point, you didn't have any from the county. It was just a loan from us. So we need to determine whether that needs to even be done, number one, of their audit. Number 2, Sickich was gonna return us an answer as to whether they believe that it should be done. They had a whole question and answer with John and I, and they believe that it likely meets their criteria for being done together, but they would get back to us in the next few days with price and with a time frame of what needs to be done when, because our audit is well along its way. So there's going to be, from Martha, she said, information by Friday at 5 o'clock as to whether we needed, what needed to be given to Sickich. And then from your attorney as to whether it even needed to be done on for them to have that audit, but it's already a part of our.
Yeah, okay, I think every agency should have an annual audit, it doesn't matter. The fact they didn't have funds in January, February, March, April, that's only 4 months. It's only a quarter of the year.
No, we didn't have funds for
From January.
This is for the year
January
that
twenty
ended.
twenty-three. So over 12,
15 months,
yeah,
we're
15
15
months, we
months.
didn't have any money, that's assuming we borrowed money from the township. So the question was, since we didn't get our actual levy money yet, our audit wouldn't.
Okay, I see what you're
until
saying.
the end of our fiscal year, which would be March 31st, 2025. However, because we borrowed funds from the township, how that kind of worked out, and the understanding is that I would just provide vouchers and help your auditing team figure out the expenditures that you all loaned us.
Yeah, I think an audit is always just good checks and balances, that's the first thing, and I think that. But I think that it needs to come out, whatever the cost is, needs to come out of your budget.
Of course.
Yeah,
Unless it's $16,000, then we have to draw on
Somewhere.
I don't think we have any say in whether you have an audit. That's up to you. As a taxpayer, I don't think you need an audit until you start getting taxpayer funds on your own. Our audit needs to cover our loans to you. That's it. That's all part of the audit anyways. So with respect to you, that's up to you.
So, let me answer, John. So, yes, I did speak with counsel today.
Uh-huh.
She said she's gone over the law, and the law only requires no audit on our behalf. All we have to do is report within 120 days at the conclusion of our fiscal year. We have to publish in the newspaper of general circulation what we had spent in the previous fiscal year.
Yeah.
So you're right. There is no law that requires any 708 board to audit itself. But to answer your question, your concern is, I think it's best business practice.
Yeah.
To
But probably not
to
now.
be,
Probably-
transparent and say, we have paid.
Yeah.
$3,000, $4,000 for an audit, and here it is, and we've got, the stamp of approval from the auditor.
Yeah.
Instead of just saying, well, our treasurer totaled everything up, and I know John, I've known John for 2.5 years, and I'm taking John's word for it that everything is hunky dory. I don't know if you would be satisfied with that.
How much did you disperse? How much did you borrow from us?
Oh,
$31,680.
You're gonna get an audit for $31,000. You're gonna get an audit for.
well, that's part of the township parts that are being.
And all of that has been, actually, that's been a part of our audit. So
Right,
that's
right.
part where,
So-
we've already,
You're not talking about getting a separate audit for your expenditures of the 31,000.
No,
No, we're just trying to,
Send us.
how best to help the audit, because money was lent to us, and if there's anything we can do to verify funds or anything like that.
You have no obligation. The trustees approve the loans. They approve the loans, and how you spend, that's fine. You're making your life too difficult. Stay out of it. It's the audit of the township. It's not the audit of the 708 board of the township. It's the audit of the township books. You're a separate organization.
So your point being, because we repaid that money.
No, you borrowed it, and the trustees approved it. That's the end of it.
Oh.
The audit has to look and say, well, was everything proper in loaning the money? We have no say over how you spend it. You're gonna give it to yourself. We have no say over that.
and they
Not that you
were,
would.
But for $31,000, that's crazy. I mean, how much you check them?
So we're gonna have something by the board meeting next week.
yes, but basically, I would agree with Ed, is that it's very unlikely because they don't have any legal obligation and because it's already been all of that due diligence is being done with our audit. In the future, when we're, looking to get an agreement, so next year, when the board is looking to get an agreement with Sickage, we would be discussing, the addition of the 708 board as part of our audit. So that's, they're doing due diligence to make sure that they're doing everything correctly.
And I,
It could be part of our audit, or it's separate.
It's a kind of a odd thing because you all have to do the levy. So the levy has to come from the township. So that's kind of part of the question was, because you all authorize the levy, do you have some sort of responsibility? Because for the audit, or I mean, so that's what they were checking.
I can see what you're saying. Yeah, it's tricky because we don't have any onus of your budget. But if we have questions, we have concerns, we also don't have to approve the levy.
Yeah, so.
Right, so
It's a
it's
an
a
interesting.
weird, yeah, it's a weird conundrum.
but I think it was your point, but anyway, Milton Township, the Milton 708 board piggybacks on the Milton Township audit, and therefore they get a discount because they're.
That's what I
they're
was
sort of
thinking.
kind of Melded.
So next year.
melded.
So we would pay for our portion of the audit. It's just
Next year.
because we're packaging it, there's a better deal.
Yeah.
We would demand it. Just kidding.
All right. And so,
Yeah.
We insist.
no more discussion on that tonight then?
Okay, let's move along.
Okay.
Right. Number 9, discussion of capital plans for township facilities and equipment. So, separate sheet for that. You all have that in front of you. We know that there's some capital investments were on have already been committed or are in the process of being committed. When interim administrator Marino was here, he went out and started the process of getting the bids for windows. We think that's gonna be something around $60,000. So we're gonna get, I think the last I heard is, Renaissance was gonna manage the process of the bid assessment. We hope to have that Friday, so we can vote on it next week. So I'm just trying to lay out what our expenditures look like between now, and the end of the fiscal year. Again, I want to make sure that we're looking to improve. How do we improve the facility that we've got here? The second is that there is a current quote to paint in here. It's approximately $13,000. We thought about painting and replacing the carpets. I think it's a bad piece of carpet up here, at least getting an assessment that you want to replace.
There's wallpaper too, right?
That would be.
Removed.
Okay. It comes down. Yeah, that's the point. So those are a couple of capital investments that we're gonna make in this facility. Our budget for capital improvements is $125,000. Currently, we only spent $19,000, so we've got room in the budget to spend capital improvements.
I always think it's also good to always plan a certain percentage overage over, especially with the windows.
Yeah, so I think we'll have to look at the whole amount, but this is just spent.
I know.
Yeah, okay, because I think we need a general contractor, and I think Renaissance had an outstanding proposal to us to the GC for when they're managing the process, putting the windows, right? So there'll be a bit above the window cost and stuff. Thing I really want to talk about those, we brought new, maybe you can all, I don't want to read, but the third bullet point, I feel we need to look at our space usage here. I'm not feeling that it's the most optimal use of space. Recycling, I'm worried about our employees having to take things out to the garage, particularly in the winter months. I'm worried about.
Icy.
Yes,
Yep.
I'm worried about medical lending closet. We got stuff all up and down the halls here. Like, we don't have dedicated rooms for these things that we brought in. Weight scale is restricting the amount of space in the food pantry. I don't know if you've been in there lately or not. Transit drivers indicated that the garage is making it more difficult to park, and get the buses in there. I would recommend you get an architecture firm to come in to talk to our employees, talk about what services we're trying to deliver here, and tell us what we can do with the space. I think this is a prime space to be used for service delivery. And I think that means that we might have to look at other places for board meetings, like for the next year, while we figure out what our options are. So I'd like to get some outside opinions as to how we can use this space more effectively for some of these new programs. So just want to put that out there as a discussion topic. we can get some more proposals, in from folks. But, you know, what are your thoughts?
I think there's room at the assessor's office for board meetings.
Is there?
I mean, well, it depends upon your size of crowd. We don't have, I would like to see more seats because sometimes we are at capacity. But yeah, that long table and back. I don't know about seating, but there's a,
So that would be a part two. I mean.
yeah,
Do you feel, my personal feeling is,
could we knock down walls and use the space
There's
better?
library rooms to have board meetings at.
Right. but yeah,
But as far as, I don't know, an architectural, I don't know if you needed, trying to think of the word I'm looking for, so you hire an architectural planning agency to come in, assess what the needs are, what the space needs are, so space planning. And then they're gonna come back with a number of what that would look like. And I mean, what kind of money are you looking to spend with that? You see what I'm saying? Like, that could be a really big number.
yeah, I'm thinking, ballpark, I'm thinking maybe architecture assessment's 25 grand. I don't know.
No, but not that part,
Right.
just the project itself. And I think 25 is,
For the plan. Right. I think we can.
I don't know that, an assessment 2,500 is a big deal. 25, okay.
So when are we getting the carpet and paint? Because I wouldn't put carpet and paint in if we're gonna tear it all down.
Right, or
Um,
windows.
Right,
Well, Windows, I think we have.
yeah, I think windows.
Windows, how we're progressing with that, Windows bid, that'll be the first thing we need to get that bid nailed down. Once you choose a bid, we're gonna make a decision probably to do the windows as soon as possible, meaning January or March. Okay,
Is that during the week or a weekend when there's nobody here?
we're gonna have to schedule it so that we can continue to provide food pantry services, general assistance, medical closet, all of that, so we'll be juggling a lot of things.
I've done windows in the winter. It's not pleasant.
That's why we're looking at January or March. We're kind of stuck because February is just frozen. So we're trying to figure out the best way to do it. Problem is, windows have to come first and then we do the painting. And we're gonna have to break it into chunks. so
Right,
they
but
can
we shouldn't
continue to
paint if
operate.
we're gonna take walls down. You see what I'm
Right,
saying?
I understand.
Yeah, maybe walls down is 18 months out, I think is the key. We'll get,
Long-term plan, so.
yeah, and I think that's the purpose of the architect,
Okay.
if I may, is to figure out what services you want to offer and what facilities you need to offer those services. What are the best, ADA accessible things? What is the best layout for a food pantry? Because it looks like there are 2 additions over there. And should you have steps up and how best, like, get a professional to talk to the people who do the work
Yeah.
and then give you the feedback, because these are, I'm throwing out a number, but the replacement value of this building is probably easily $1 billion. So you're talking about very significant facilities here at the assessor, and that you're leasing out. So eventually you want a professional's opinion on how you should manage your facilities and what they should look like, what space. So that's just.
Okay.
I'm putting that out as an idea.
Yep.
I got a concern about people going back and forth between the garage. Townships. And even the food pantry today, they were walking down, children were walking down towards the garage. They were waiting for the food pantry. Their parents are right there watching.
Right, right,
It
right.
wasn't like that, but I don't think they truly understand that that's a working yard. And trucks are gonna be coming in and out, and sometimes you're just asking for something else. So we're gonna have to find some way to
What
control.
about signage? Because that is as I'm back there in the garden, I know exactly what you're talking about. You know, they're not expecting anybody as they're coming through the lot, right? So what about like a
Yeah.
sign,
God, we hope.
By the food pantry,
You gotta
no
find something.
admittance beyond this point, something?
I don't know what the solution.
Yeah.
I'll be glad to try something. But even then, little girl, beautiful little girl, just kind of,
Yeah, you got some big equipment back.
Mm-hmm.
and I can see a truck pulling out of that garage and I
Yep.
see that.
Yep.
little girl.
Well, with the increase of clientele, I really do think that there needs to be a better way for them to line up, especially in these colder days to I almost wish we could just have them pull up their car. You know what I mean? And they just get, I don't know, I just feel like not having them in and out, I don't know. The waiting, the in and out, the him walking them back out to the parking lot, if it's icy, the liability, I don't know.
And they start lining up at 8 o'clock in the morning and the
And
food
it's
pantry
cold.
doesn't open until noon.
Yeah.
They're sitting out there in freezing cold for 4 hours. Yeah.
It's not
No.
good.
Maybe you give them a ticket.
We're warming stuff. They
You
do
do
get a
that.
ticket, but not until 11 o'clock in the morning.
And then you just have a signage, you know, now serving 001.
They do that.
002.
They're assigned numbers, but they don't begin that until 11 o'clock in the morning.
They don't go back in their car, do they?
If they have a car, they can go sit in their car, but some don't have a car. Some come here via bus, you know, or they get a ride. Yeah, so it's kind of a problem. And we are, I believe, a designated warming center, right? So
Where would you be? Where would you
So
go?
Supervisor Hewitt, you'd like to add?
So we did try to give people tickets earlier in the day, and that encouraged people to keep coming earlier and earlier. And so like if we gave tickets at 8 o'clock in the morning, then people would come at 8 o'clock in the morning and start waiting for 4 hours. So it was a problem of giving them tickets too early because that encouraged that. We do open up the area right in the lobby to sit. If this is, I mean, the place where we do the warming is in this room. This is the only place where we could open it up. It then limits the ability for people to do appointments, whether it's passports or anything with general assistance. So then the staff would then have to take people into their offices. So we really don't have another place to put people.
Well, they have to take them into their office if they had two different appointments anyway.
right,
Yeah.
yeah,
And keep in mind, you have the office that you kicked me out of. that's
Right.
full of boxes.
there's plenty of space. We need people to be warm and comfortable and not sitting in the cold.
All right, so that was
Okay,
just a
Thank
thought.
you.
Going on to the second
Thanks for
page.
getting the wheels in motion on that.
Yeah, so I'll work with John to get some from him, give us some thoughts as to what that means for. Food pantry facilities and equipment. So we had a budget of 142.7, we spent 103,699.80 as of at the end of the last bill cycle. We haven't done the current bill cycle. Let's talk about a couple of purchases. We have the Gator Chef freezer purchase. It was 8206.99. We chose not to accept it and request reimbursement from the county because it's sitting in the garage. For us to cancel that order is $3,693.50. Gator Chef, local company, I mean, that's the quote they gave us. That freezer can be made to work in the food pantry, but we have to remove an existing piece of equipment.
I just don't understand how we ordered a piece of equipment and did not measure the space and have some capacity planning work done. Like, I just don't understand it.
Supervisor Good?
It was capacity plan. It is a heated garage. So we understood and planned for it to be in the garage because we also knew that we had a freezer that was on its last legs. And so again, Jordan has confirmed that that's what the refrigerant guy had said. And so can the freezer be either left in the garage until the decision is made to either move out the oldest one that's on its last legs? Yes, or the freezer could be returned.
Would someone, I don't know what the cost is to repair the one that's on its last leg. I mean, that's one service tech's opinion. So I don't know what it would take to correct it, but maybe we can get some kind of trade up for it. I don't know, or donate it to.
We can donate it according to legal. When I reached out to them, we can actually sell any surplus equipment to any other government body without any special anything. So we can probably sell it to another body in need for $1,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and then their only expense is doing whatever it needs.
Right.
So it has been repaired. That's how we figured out that it was on its last legs. We don't, what was that?
It's donated.
I'm sorry, so it's been repaired, so it's not on its last legs?
It is definitely still on its last legs. It's over,
Okay,
I forgot the exact age of the refrigerator, of the freezer, but we've been told that it was a 50-50 chance whether it was gonna
Okay,
be working or not. It does not have a long life expectancy.
okay, well, we don't wanna eat $3,600,
Right,
Right,
so,
yep.
so the invoice will be for the auditing expenses next week, which I think is trustee Geist and trustee Page. For all, I guess we can't make decisions here, but
We
we
could
rec-
recommend,
we
yeah.
could recommend that we conclude that purchase, pay out of the township funds. And then do a swap to bring it into the food pantry. Take the one that's in there currently now, move it to the garage and try to find and dispose of it in a way that's
donate it.
donated. Okay, all right, good. I wanted to make sure we talked about that. Crown is the other big expenditure. There was this stacker electric lift. It was approximately $15,000 purchase, approximate price. I don't know if we've heard, the last call I was on with Mr. Light was they were gonna see if they could find another use for it in their world. I've got indications from Jordan, he thinks he could use, I know we borrow from you guys, from the highway commissioner when we have to unload trucks.
And we have offered, they want to use the forklift, let's train two guys up here, let them come down and get it.
So I don't know, the thing we didn't know is how tightly they were gonna hold us to the fact that we had purchased and then confirmed configuration. Have we heard back at all?
I have not heard back going through my emails. I have not heard back.
Well,
What they said the issue was getting into a little more depth was in our conversation, I believe they claimed that was more of a custom type unit.
Right.
So it wasn't an off the shelf type of purchase.
Hmm.
And because it was built to certain
Our specs.
our specs, they were gonna go back through their client list to see if anybody was ordering the same thing. And then they might just be able to give them ours and relieve us of what they felt was the 15,000.
and if they are not in a position to do that, how are we properly training the staff to be using forklifts safely?
Yeah,
You have a lot of volunteers in and out of there. It's not a toy. It can be a very dangerous piece of equipment.
I think if you move forward with the purchase, what I would recommend. One is, yes, you do have to go to training. Two, we also have to set aside space in the garage. That's where the architecture plan goes in to make sure this thing's plugged in. Parked appropriately, safely, and lockdown tag out procedures are in place. So a volunteer doesn't get on it, hurt anybody. And Ed's point is really a really good one from a risk management perspective. This driveway, now you're increasing the traffic. Now you got another high-low going back and forth, and you have trucks that were parking there. So that's where the architect's idea, Ed's input would probably be needed as well. To like, what does the site plan here kind of look like? And I know I'm getting way ahead of myself, but if we acquire this piece of equipment, we're gonna have to go through some training with Jordan and also some real rigorous, like what we call written SOPs.
Yeah.
Like, these are things that are set in stone. Volunteers do not operate that equipment, period, end of story. Yeah, they don't. This is the only area on this campus that can be in operation. So in other words, it's not, we're driving it down to that end of the parking lot. No, it stays up here.
Okay.
Things like that. And maybe there's additional striping that has to go out there. And we know more about that, like lanes where you can operate. I don't know. But it's gonna be, it will require some
Supervisor Hewitt?
So I sent the contract that we had sent and signed in October to our attorney. There is no, and he's going to give us a written opinion on this, but he doesn't believe, or what I've understood is that there isn't, because we have not received anything, because it is not all that custom, because it was not in the contract that if we had changed our mind or didn't receive it, we couldn't not purchase it. It does appear that we could get out of it,
Okay.
out of paying for any part of it. So I do think that if you all do not, which you all voted not to buy it, then it can be, this can be a moot point because they haven't returned any information back to us about the date of when they would, give it to us. It wasn't in the contract that we couldn't change the arrangement. So it does appear that it can be canceled legally.
Okay, good.
Okay, great, thank you.
Last thing I want to talk about records retention and compliance. I'm very impressed with a lot of back and home service that they came in and did their assessments to what we could dispose of so quickly. Against all applicable guidelines or applicable rules and regulations. The second phase of that was to digitize, right? Digitize what was remaining. I would suggest that we ask them to give us a proposal to go ahead and digitize. Again, trying to clean up, leave things as tight as we can, before the end of our terms. So.
How fast did they do it?
The going through all.
Yeah, all the papers.
Just literally 2 days. They just locked themselves into a room and just, they're going through boxes.
And then you go ahead.
I was here one of the days and, I had mentioned mine.
Yeah.
And so they said they're coming back in
They are.
December.
It looks like January, they'll come back like in January.
Okay, that's fine.
Yes.
I think they're gonna do both. They're gonna do, mid-December and then mid-January.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
if someone could tell me when they're back, so then, I mean, or make sure that part of their day is to come by me.
We're not going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's fun.
Supervisor Hume?
I think it's December 14th. But I'll make sure that that's conveyed and it's accurate.
Again, this is gonna free up space, right? I mean, I've already seen the boxes that they flagged that they can dispose of.
Saturday.
And then hopefully if we digitize, that we can shrink it even more, right? So that helps.
So that whole office will be open.
I think so.
Yeah.
That would be an objective,
That's
right? Yeah.
fantastic.
Right.
Quick question on that. When does everything get shredded then?
They're gonna, that's included as part of their
Okay.
contract. So we just said, tell us when, we'll help
Right.
you load the truck.
Will it be on premises here or do we have to load up?
They take it to their office. They
Okay.
will come and get it and take it to their office is what she
Supervisor.
said.
The last email said the January 14th, they could come here and shred it on premises. If they wanted it to take them to their office, they could do it earlier. So,
Holiday service.
That's all I wanted to go through in the finance committee. So I appreciate, we've talked about levy, we've talked about budgets, we've talked about some future investments that we want to make. Any other thoughts as you thought about things we want to do in the facility?
So.
Interesting.
I
We
would
have
love to
pre-qualified.
explore solar,
Mhm.
absolutely. My concern is the painting and carpeting replacement, and the only reason I'm concerned is because I literally just did this in my house. And it cost a lot more than that, right? And this building is a lot bigger and you're taking down wallpaper and cracking out floors and it's like, can we get,
Herbert?
We'll
Yeah.
tighten them up.
thank you.
The quote for the painting was 13,000.
Yeah.
And that included taking the wallpaper
And
off.
that, I thought that was a good.
That is a
That's
very good point.
fantastic.
Yeah.
That's why I'm questioning it. I'm like,
That's right.
where were you when I was painting my house,
Maybe
right?
we'll go back through those specs and just double triple. check.
Okay.
The flooring, it's a little bit more, cause the flooring here is weird because it goes up on my wall.
Right.
So that, I think that might end up running you more, cause they might have to do baseboard work.
Okay.
you know. Look.
I think investing in this building in all of our properties is a very good thing.
If you look at the ceiling, they hopefully look a little better, that's because they've been replacing.
Are they done now? Did they come back and they finished
Yes.
everything? Thank you.
Used them all up, so you'll notice the ones that were stained in this room are not gone.
That's good.
Thank you.
Yeah, so John's been holding Renaissance accountable. They've been more responsive. I don't want to spend any more time I have to, but the cleaning service is definitely something that he's focusing on as well.
Have anything to say for themselves?
Due to my sickness, we had to cancel a meeting. We're going to have to meet with them about what comes next. But we're gonna have the contract reviewed by your attorney first, because our thought is, at this point, I don't know that that relationship can be repaired.
Or does it require a contractor?
There is an existing contract. It did have automatic renewal provisions. So we're just gonna make sure that whatever we tell to them, it is legal lawful within the contract, if that contract still applies. So it did have an automatic annual renewal provision. So, and it renewed that it was last.
Maybe it shouldn't be automatic. They should
Yeah,
have to come back
clearly,
before the
yeah.
board.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion on facilities? Any thoughts?
Nope.
Okay, cool, thanks. I can't remember if we covered this in one of our other board meetings or not, but I included the agenda, the minutes from the March 4th, 2024 meeting, we had a finance committee. A lot of it was around finalizing the budget for the next fiscal year. So, I know it was up in, you've all got stuff.
Just making a motion to approve it.
Okay,
Motion, Jeff.
Who was, trustee Dyke was first, trustee McGovern second?
Second.
Yes, thank you.
roll call votes. Supervisor Hewitt,
I can't find that. Where would that be?
Okay.
Yes,
trustee, Geis,
Yes.
trustee McGovern.
Yes.
Trustee Robinson, yes. Trustee Page.
Yes,
Okay, good, thanks. Number 11, elected official, anyone make any comment? Executive session, do we think we need one?
Great, I'll make a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
I.